Hey all, Mechanical Mike here. Today I'm going to show you how to change a spark plug. All of them. Well, I'm going to show you one, but this is the same thing would apply to all of them. And I'm using this 1949 Ford F5 as an example because the engine is very accessible and it's easy to see. The same principles basically apply to a modern engine, except that newer cars use much higher voltage for their spark plugs, so you really don't want to be touching that while it's running or turning over, but you shouldn't be doing that anyway. First thing, the engine should be cold. Don't change your spark plugs while the engine's hot, because the metal can expand and shrink, and sometimes it's a lot harder to get them out. But you should be doing this while it's cold. You're not going to burn yourself either. So here's the first spark plug. I've already changed out the rest of them. These don't actually have that rubber shielding on them. I'm actually going to change these out with new spark plug cables. And what you should do is do one at a time. Don't take all your spark plug cables off and then change them out, because then you're going to probably more than likely miswire them when you put them back on if you don't number them. What I like to do is just take one off at a time, pull the spark plug, put the new one in, and then put the cable back on. Best way to do it, easy, simple. So here's my last one. I'm gonna go ahead and pull this cable off. You can get a tool that, it's harder with the newer, especially with newer vehicles, with the rubber shielding that's on there. You can get a crimper tool that basically just grabs it and pulls it off for you. It's kind of like pliers, but it's got a rubber guard, so it just pops it off. Either that, or you can kind of just pull and roll it back and forth and it pops out. And a lot of newer vehicles, there's kind of recessed deep in there. This is a flathead, so it makes it way easier to work on. First things first, you want to, especially if you have a compressor, take a little bit of air and blow out around this before you unscrew that, because you don't want any sediment falling into that cylinder. If you do, that can cause big problems. And if you do accidentally, don't do it. If you do accidentally, before you put the new spark plug in, turn your engine over with the distributor cap disconnected from your ignition coil, so that it doesn't spark and doesn't start. Turn your engine over and try and blow that back out. This is an older engine. It takes a 13/16 spark plug socket. This is just a standard deep socket. I don't have my spark plug socket with me. I've just got my real minimal toolbox that I keep in my truck. A spark plug socket usually has a little rubber grommet in the end so that it can hold onto the spark plug when you pull it out, which definitely you're going to need if you have a deep recessed spark plug in there, or otherwise it's just going to bounce around. You won't be able to get it out. So make sure you get a right spark plug socket. I think modern ones use a 3/4 inch or 19 millimeter. I did blow that out, and I'm just gonna go ahead and loosen that. It shouldn't be too hard to do. One of them was pretty well seized. These haven't been changed in a while. They're all rusted out. So once I get it loose enough, I like to take the socket off and do the rest by hand, so that when it comes loose, I'm not gonna knock anything into the cylinder. I can pull it straight out. So I pulled that straight out so it doesn't knock anything in there. I'm just going to take my finger and wipe away from the hole any sediment. Do not wipe it into the hole. So any residual sediment, I'm just getting out of there. I don't want it to go in there. I don't want to knock it in when I put my new spark plug in. So you can see that's pretty fouled and blackened at this point. So really rusted out. It still runs great. These old engines they're pretty hard to kill, but we're gonna go ahead and change that out. So before you put the new one in, there's a couple things you want to do. First, compare them. Make sure this thread size is the same. That's the biggest difference there. You should, when you go to your auto parts store, they should be able to look it up by your model year and engine size to get you the correct ones. Usually these are set pretty close to your factory gap or whatever your specification is. I've got these auto lights because these are the closest to the OEM for the trucks. I prefer to get the closest spark plugs to OEM whenever I change them. You know, they sell like platinum, double platinum. It really doesn't make that much of a difference, and I like to go with what the manufacturer designed for. So next thing I'm going to do, I've got this little gap feeler gauge, which tells you what your gap should be at. Right now I'm shooting for 0.030, and I can see it's a little tight. So what I'm going to do is just barely flex that, and that just opened my gap up a little more. And now you want the large side to be on the number you're shooting for. So now I'm right at 30, or 0.30, and that's right where I want to be. I'm going to pull that off, check it again, make sure it easily slides to that point, and then stops at it. So I'm good. That's right where I want to be. Next thing I'm going to do, I've got this big thing of anti-seize. You can just get those little packets at the auto parts store, and it's good to do that on these threads so that next time you change out your spark plugs, you're not fighting it. It's not stuck in there. So we don't need that much. I'm just going to kind of roll the edge on there, on the thread. I just want it on the thread. I don't want it on the top. So this is hard to do while I'm holding my phone. I'm always doing this holding my phone. Okay, so I just got a little bit on there, and that's going to keep it from seizing up. Same kind of thing. I want to come in dead center. I want to be able to see the hole as I go in. Let's see. So I'm looking at it, and I want to come right in without touching the edges to my contact point. And then it's definitely good to do this by hand because you don't want to cross thread it going in. So now that I've got that in there by hand, I'm just going to take my socket and don't over tighten these. They don't take much. So once it's snug, I'm going to give it a quarter turn just to squish down that squash washer. I put dielectric grease on here. I'm not going to do it until I put the new cables on, but usually I take just a little dab of that and I put it on top of the spark plug. Just a little dab, like on your finger, and just whoop, right on the very top. Put your spark plug cable back on, and that just helps keep a really nice connection between there, and can help keep it from eroding over time. These spark plug cables tend to erode a lot faster, especially out east, because there's no rubber jacket on it. So once I replace this with rubber jackets, it'll should last quite a long time. But that's pretty much it. You've got a new spark plug in there. Continue that all the way down. It is going to come in handy for you to have an extension with an elbow. This truck was really easy to access. There certainly are places where you have to get in, especially with newer cars because there's so much crap crammed in there. You might have to get in an angle like that. So that will help you out a lot. And then a actual spark plug socket. If you got any questions, leave comments below. Thanks for watching.